Parenting is hard. It can also be rewarding, but getting through the grind to the good stuff can be a real struggle. And all of us could use some inspiration, encouragement, or just a reminder that we aren't alone on this journey. Sometimes even parents need a timeout.
Hi parents, welcome to Parents Time Out. This is the time during the week when we gather with other parents and share ideas, ask questions, and learn from each other, because parenting is not meant to be done in isolation. So thanks for joining us. I'm Kim Botto, and I am a mom to 5, a grandma to 7, soon to be 8, and I also lead Kids Club and student ministry at Crossroads. So, oh, look, there's my family. Aw, yeah, there they are. And that was taken back in November. So yeah, a very fun and adventurous crew. And this is our 15th episode of Parents Time Out. And over the past 15 weeks, we have gotten to host a lot of really great people. And I know that I have been challenged. And I know from your comments that you have also been challenged and been inspired by some new ideas. So tonight, for our 15th episode, we have Jason Eads joining us. He's my friend and my coworker. Hi, Jason.
Hello, Kimball.
You have a little different background than usually. You're usually sitting on your porch.
Yeah, well, it's getting a little hot out there, so now I'm inside in the AC.
Well, we are glad to have you. Jason leads our Kids Club site teams, and he works closely with the national team in creating content. And we've been working together for 13 years, Jason.
13 of the best years of my life.
I agree. And Jason is also, he's the dad of 3. He had, oh, look at them. There's his wife, Amy, and Sadie, Harper, and Nora. Jason and Amy had 3 kids in 22 months, which that is a whole story in itself of just God's abundant blessing on your family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, adorable girls. And then he has a couple dogs in there too. So Jason was instrumental in starting Parents Time Out when the pandemic started and things started to shut down. Jason said parents need something. So Jason, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you were thinking and why you were so interested in getting Parents Time Out started?
Well, yeah, well, as you know, we've talked about this kind of idea for years. And it felt like it felt like people were too busy just to have time to fit this in, or did they know it was a need? And we've talked really dreamed for years about having something like this. And then I think the inspiration really came out of we both are parents. We've had kids come to our families through adoption. We've been part of a support group for adopted and foster care families. And I would come out of those meetings every single month, and I would often learn a new tool, maybe some new information. But really what it did was it just gave me encouragement. And I looked around the room and I thought, you know what? I'm not alone. We're all on different journeys, but it's, I'm not out here trying to figure this out myself. I do have people around me that are also learning. And it was kind of a booster shot in the arm every single month. Get some encouragement, get some inspiration, maybe some tools and information. But really, it was just the fact that I wasn't alone. So I think to fight isolation, and parents just need more encouragement. We feel like most of us feel like we're doing a crappy job, and it's just not true. But we just need to know we're not alone, and we need some encouragement. So that's kind of where this all came from.
Yeah. So we hope that by you tuning in, you realize that you're not doing a crappy job.
That's right.
Sometimes what we're doing could be better.
Absolutely.
But we're doing the best we can. And when we do something that's maybe not the best, if we're learning from it, and then changing the way we take the next step, to me, that's a win.
Yep. I think we often, I know I'm really hard on my kids at times. I expect them to learn things very quickly and to know more than they really should know at this point. And I think that we do the same thing internally with ourselves. I should know that as a parent. And we just don't give ourselves grace nearly enough.
We don't. Yeah. If only we treated each other, if only we treated ourselves like we treat each other, because I extend a lot more grace to other people than I do to myself. So when we first started talking about this in May, things were way different than they are right now. So let's talk about, I know you've had some observations about the changes that you've seen, but back in May, late April, early May, when we were talking about this, we were still thinking that summer camps for kids might happen. We weren't even talking about whether or not school would happen. I mean, we thought by the time August, September rolled around, that kids would be in school back to a normal schedule. And you had some observations, though, around kind of what the pandemic has done to the way we think and look at things.
Yeah, we were looking at toilet paper, I think, like back in early May to find that. I'm not sure this is true for everybody, but I think for me and our family, this feels a little simplistic, but I think the two things that this time has done for us, it's either made things simplified or it's amplified things that are happening. And so by simplified, I mean, I think we've all experienced where we're probably thinking about, in some ways, just like what's the next meal. It sounds kind of crazy, but even when things were starting to feel scarce and information it's been all over the place, but I think it on some level takes us to a place of, I won't say survival mode. But we start thinking about, this is crazy. I kept thinking, well, if I don't have toilet paper, do we have old shirts that we could use? I know that sounds gross, but those weren't thoughts I ever had before. And so, beyond that, we also, went on more walks, and just life in so many ways, it slowed down. At the same time, I think it amplified what was already happening. And so if things were in a healthy spot, I think it like you noticed that, like, hey, I was in a spot where I wasn't lonely. I had some friendships, although challenging. You felt that, like you had people around you, but if you already felt isolated, I think this amplified that feeling even more for us as adults, for our kids. And so I don't know. I just feel like in so many ways, that's what this has been for us. And yeah, it's just been, like everybody, it's just been a crazy time. And I know for me, this has been needed. I've sat kind of in the background of these each week, and it's helped me make sense of really almost week to week, as things change very quickly, to make sense of what's happening, and kind of giving me a little bit of, I would say, some bearings. Like in that time and space, it gave me something to kind of hold on to week to week.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you pushing to move Parents Time Out forward. And I just want to do a call out that for this episode, we are not doing it live, but we still want to hear from you. And we hope that in this way you can encourage each other. So go ahead, and if you have questions, if you have ideas for future episodes, if there's somebody that you would like to see on here, or if there's somebody that we've had on that you have thought more about what they said, go ahead and put that in there, because that's an encouragement to them too. So you talked about, things being amplified, and I absolutely think that's true. And the good is amplified too.
That's right.
What I have found is, like, just the tiniest little bit of kindness, where pre-COVID people go, whatever. But now, you put a helium balloon on somebody's porch, and, it makes their day. So, which I think is encouraging. But as we look back on the past 15 weeks, I think one of the things that I have seen come out over and over again is that we as parents just make things too complicated. Before we take a step, we want to make sure that we have all the answers, and guest after guest, I think every week we have said, oh yeah, we're just making it too hard. We just need to simplify. And some of the examples that I saw were like when Chuck Mingo and Cameron Smedley and Brandon Black were all on talking about how do we talk about race and injustice with our kids. And so many parents, over 60% of parents never talk to their kids or rarely talk to their kids about this. And really what it came down to is just start the conversation. Get them a book with some people who don't look like them, and get them a baby doll of a different ethnicity than what they are. Some other ideas. I know when Jane Schooler was on and she talked about playing, we think we have to have this whole elaborate thing. And she's like, no, just get on the floor with them and make up stories. And actually, the night after she was on, I was at my daughter Rachel's house, and she has 3 kids under the age of 5 and under. And I was going to help clean up after dinner. And I thought, no, I'm going to go downstairs with the kids. And we sat downstairs for an hour and a half, most of the time with blankets over our heads.
That's perfect.
And we made up stories for an hour and a half. And the kids were laughing. They thought it was so funny. And I wouldn't have done that had Jane not challenged me. And another really simple idea that I thought was great is when Justin and Sarah Mosteller were on, and they talked about pointing our kids to God and worshiping with our kids, and the idea about using rocks to write down what we're thankful for. And I know you guys in your home, the home that you're in before, you actually had a thankful wall on the wall where your stairs are, where you would just take a Sharpie, which pro tip, don't use a Sharpie, because then when you go to sell your house, it's really hard to get rid of that.
It took a few coats of kills, but we got it. I think it's gone. I'm not actually sure.
It might be seeping through now.
Not house anymore, so I don't know.
That's right. But the Mostellers, they would get rocks, and the kids would just write down things that they're thankful for. And then they would pick up those rocks every now and then and look at them just as a reminder of what God had done for them. And the other thing they did, which was so simple, but we don't do it, is every day at dinner, they'd say, what was your God part?
Yeah.
And they said how that helped train their kids to look at God through the day. And they talked a lot about identity. And I know that at the Eads household, you have some ways that you really build into your kids' identity.
Yeah, one of the things, Justin, his example, we talked about one of his kids learning to ride their bike, I think. And I know I saw a video, I think it maybe even got into a commercial at some point, but it was a dad and a little girl, and they were standing in front of a mirror, and he said, I am strong. And so she was repeating, I am smart. I work hard. And I thought, oh man, that's fantastic. Like, what if we gave our kids some kind of code, some kind of just foundational statements that would help them understand who they are? That's our job, is to speak into them and help them understand how God's wired them. And so we started thinking like what we want to say. And so we come up with like a little Eads code. Now we don't do this like every night before bed. In fact, we mentioned this once in the last 2 months. It kind of comes and goes and how we use this, but it's been a way for us to help our kids know who they are. And we've had some moments where it's come to play. So I know one of my little girls was learning to ride her bike and got really frustrated in the midst of all this and was about to quit. And she's not a quitter normally. And so when those rare moments of inspiration, it's popped in my mind. I'm like, hey, Nora, tell me who you are. And she kind of mumbles through at the very beginning, I'm loved. And then she got to the part where I am mighty and brave. And it's almost like she inflated. It's almost like she, in that moment, got some instant courage and bravery and hopped back up on her bike. And within 15 minutes, she had it nailed, never looked back. And so no, I just want something. I know right now I've got more of an opportunity to tell them who they are. But at some point, I just want to leave. Yeah, right there. Those are the kind of statements that, and this is actually a poster that hangs above our stairwell where the kids come down like from their room. So it's there. But I just want to leave our kids some breadcrumbs, because right now I have lots of influence, but I know at some point in the future, they're gonna screw up big time. They're gonna feel lost. They're gonna have lots of struggles. And so I want them to know how to come home, not to a house, but how to come home to a place that's safe, where they're accepted, where they're loved and known. And I just want to, hopefully plant seeds that in a positive way trigger them to remember who they are and how God sees them. So yeah, I was definitely, and when listening to Justin, I thought, oh man, it's been 3 years and we don't have anything in our house right now. You mentioned our wall before, we wrote things down. And that was really powerful to see all the ways that God had been active in our lives, things we were thankful for. And it's made me try to at least work and figure out how can we do that differently now in a new space.
Have you decided how you're going to do it?
No.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I had the thought like, oh, I need to do that. And then thinking about this today, I thought, you know what? I actually need to do that. Like, that's something that it's important. So
I know one idea I was telling you is you ought to get just big canvases And I think I have some big canvases in my basement. I might go look, Jason. I might clear up my basement, drop it off at your porch. And I want to encourage you. You said you're leaving breadcrumbs. What you're doing by reminding them that they're mighty and brave and smart and beautiful, those aren't breadcrumbs. Those are big boulders. Those are big boulders that you're establishing as a foundation to what they believe about themselves. And I know in looking at this, I shared when you shared that with me, I shared it with my kids, and they were joking around about what they say before they go to bed. Like, if you pee out of your diaper, put a new diaper on and go back to bed.
I get that too.
But words have tremendous impact on our kids. And you saying that you saw, Nora like inflate. Yeah, because you were pouring courage into her. You were depositing courage into that sweet girl, and she could ride her bike. So I would love to know what phrases families use, because I know a lot of families have phrases that they repeat over and over again. And I would love to know if families are doing that. Write them in the comments, because I want to hear what they are, because it might inspire me as I come up with things. And there's sometimes the parents will say, I don't want to say the same thing over and over again. Yeah, we do. Because by saying it over and over again, it makes a mark on the kids, and they're going to remember it. I think also as I think back, like talking about what we're doing, what our purpose is as a parent. So, Jason, you and Amy know you want to build into their identity. And I think of D-Val and Lori Valentine, David Valentine and Lori Valentine, when they were on. And I've heard them tell this story before, and I love it, where they had that big slip and slide. They have a big hill, and they had a slip and slide, and they had all these families come over, and the kids were having a blast. And then somebody said, oh my gosh, D-Val, you're killing your grass. Like, this big old piece of plastic is killing your grass. And D-Val's dad was there, and he said, he's not growing grass, he's growing kids. And I think for us as parents, it's important for us to remember what the priority is, and it's our kids. And we're not trying to keep a perfectly clean house. That's obviously not a priority here at the Botto house. And
right there.
or keep a perfectly manicured lawn. It's to help our kids know who they are, so they can be the absolute best versions of what God has created them to be.
Yeah, I think we get stuck as parents often. Either we have looking for a silver bullet, like the thing that's going to last for all eternity, and that's often not the case. In fact, that's one of the themes. Is just keep adapting, keep changing, keep it simple. And I think we look at stuff and the bar is way too high. We talked about not having a pandemic or Pinterest pandemic. That's not happening. And I think it's important as we look around not to make this thing so complicated. So we get fearful because we think it should look like this or that, and really we just don't start. And really, I think all that needs to happen most of the time is just move in some direction, do something, and it probably won't be like the thing that you end up with, but it's constantly evolving. I think it leads you to the next step and the next step. You can take cues from your kids. You can look around. You don't have to find new ideas. Find things that inspire you, that are fun for you, and make them your own. Rip them off, like that video from that dad. I totally ripped that off. Like, that was not an easy idea, but I think feeling the freedom to look around and find things that really seem like they could work for us, and just try them and give ourselves permission to try, permission to fail, and lots of grace is important.
You said just move. And what's that? There's some famous quote about that, where a moving ship, it's easier to adjust the direction than a ship that's just standing still. Haven't you heard that? Yeah. So
weird, but yeah, I don't remember that. Yeah.
So just move, because then when you're moving, you can't adjust.
That's right.
I probably totally made it up. I butcher all butcher all those famous quotes. Talking about just move and do something, and simplicity. I think one thing where we've heard a lot is just ask for help. Like if
Yes.
you need help, ask for it. Be vulnerable. My good pal Latasha, when she said, ask for help early and often, and people won't judge you. And if they do, find other people.
That's right.
And um, and I think especially during pandemic, because people aren't physically as present as they used to be with other people, it's harder to ask for help. But I know I found I had a really rough couple weeks, the first couple weeks of pandemic. Just yeah, it was just hard. Work was frenetic, and
Yeah.
but once I started talking to people about how I was really feeling, instead of trying to act like I had it all together, it got better, because then people could
Yep.
remind me who I really am. They could also help remind me of my priorities. So I think just reaching out to people, and that was another reason why we did Parents Time Out. Even though it's online, we actually have seen some connections be made through the comments, where people then end up messaging each other. And parents, we can't do it in isolation.
No, we got it. I mean, I think we all know that we need other people. We need different, fresh ideas. We just need encouragement. And I think we all know too, at least I think we do, that other people don't really have it together. I think we tell ourselves they do, but I think we just need to swallow our pride and reach out and say, hey, what's going on? This is what I need help with. Can you help me? I think in doing so, that's where we get to the really good stuff. And if we keep those walls up and we don't ask, we assume that people don't want to be helpful to us, or that they have it together, then I think it just keeps us in the same stuck places. And if we want to go to new places, we've got to reach out and ask for help.
That's right. That's right. And speaking of asking for help, I think one thing that parents have been asking for a lot of help in is what to do about school.
Yeah.
There's been some hysterical, I just saw one this morning, a video of a mom like going through the school thing. And she was, I'm definitely going to homeschool them. I'm 5 minutes later, I'm definitely going to send them to school. And then I'm definitely going to do part virtual, part. And so you and Amy have 3 kids. How are you navigating figuring out what you're going to do about school?
Yeah. And I feel the pain out there. It's our district locally has changed course again. And so now for the first 5 weeks, at least, we'll be all at home again. And my kids we're going to have before a chance 2 days on, 3 days off, and vice versa. And my kids were really bummed because they were looking forward to going back and being around people. I would say, I mean, there's been no guide other than we've asked people. We've been talking to friends about it, like what they're thinking, and just trying to assess where our kids are right now. Like, what do they need? What's best for their emotional health? What's best for our family right now? And we were excited about having just that blended learning opportunity to kind of get best of both worlds. We had the ability to kind of be a little more flexible. But yeah, I would say we're just bummed right now that our kids still are going to be, I don't know, it's just going to be a different experience. And like everybody else, I think that the bigger thing is just making sure that in the midst of trying not working just on details, logistics, that we forget that our kids are thinking about this, they're having emotions to it, just responding to what's going on, and not forgetting that they probably have a bigger reaction emotionally than what I'm even having myself.
Right. And one thing I've been telling people, when they come, they're asking me, and I mean, I can't tell them. You have to decide what's best. You as a family have to decide what your priorities are and what's important. But also, we're not getting married to our school schedule.
Yep.
And so make a decision. And then if things change, which they are changing so rapidly, you can change your decision. You can even start your kid one way. And then I know there's some things where schools are saying you have to give so much notice, but this isn't a decision that we're making for the rest of our life.
Yeah, I think it feels that way because right now, again, it's all amplified, and it feels like this is, they're going to get behind. They're going to, all these things happen. And really, I'm not sure that's true. Now, I know there are things that I think about seniors right now that are walking into their last year. I mean, there's definitely this is going to be a hard year again. But I do think it's probably not at times as epic as it seems to us. That's not all like downplaying that it's not, it doesn't have an impact on us. I love just the freedom that you call out to be flexible. It can change, and you can change it. Like there are ways, probably options that we can flex and figure out what our kids best need going forward.
Well, you talk about seniors. I have a friend who's a mutual friend of ours, Heather, whose daughter Caroline is a senior. And so what she's doing is she's asked for help. She's reached out to other mothers of seniors, and they can't control what the school does, but they can control what they as families do. And so they are working together to make it an epic senior year for their kids, regardless of whether, and it's going to be epic, regardless of whether they're in a school building or not, whether cross country happens or not. And I think as parents, letting go of the stuff we don't have control over.
Yep, that's massive.
And then figuring out what we do have control over. Like Heather and Jim do have control over the experiences that Caroline has her senior year, and they can get some stuff together. But Jason, as we're kind of ending up here, like, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave with parents that are watching?
We talked about this kind of the top, but I think the fact that you're doing a really good job, I think you need to hear that. Not that you and I don't have room to improve like we do, but I think more often than not, we tend to look at the times that we don't get things right. Those things are inflated in our minds, and we forget the 10 times before that we did a decent job. And I would just say, keep at it. And I would say too, if you find this wasn't planned, but I'm just gonna tell you, if you find this time at all helpful, can you share it with somebody? Just let somebody know how a weekly encouragement, weekly shot of inspiration to you has been good, and just share this with somebody else. Because I think more parents, again, we just need to know that you can do this, you got this, and there's help, there's support. You aren't alone.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have gotten through parenting my kids without other people around me.
Yeah.
Especially when we adopted our two youngest, because it just brings unique and amazing joys and really unique challenges that we simply weren't prepared to handle. We didn't know what to do. We thought we were failures. And then talking to people who were in the same life stage. I think of our friend Heather. Yep. She was a huge help to me in that. I remember, she'd bring me chocolate and wine. And Beth, who's in the studio right now running this, would do the same thing. And we are not supposed to do this alone. We're supposed to parent with other people. We want this to be a support to people. So we're just so thankful that you're tuning in, and we would love to know how we being Crossroads Kids Club. That's and right. Jason and me and Beth in the studio personally, how we can support you, because that's our life's calling. And we're all about kids and families, and we want to support you. So Jason, thanks so much for being on here tonight. And if you have benefited at all from Parents Time Out, this is the dude you need to thank, Jason Eads, because he has, like I said, it was his effort and enthusiasm toward this idea that actually got it going. And we'll be back next week, and we're going to have Jason Johnson on, who he is a nationally known speaker. He lives in Texas. He works for Christian Alliance for Orphans, which is also known as CAFO, and he works with churches, helping them with their orphan and foster care ministry. And he is just a great voice in parenting, especially when, as we're parenting, we encounter challenges. Jason, have you ever had challenges in parenting?
A few, yeah.
Okay, then you should tune in next week for Jason Johnson, because I know that he has really inspired me. And one thing he's really good at is helping us look at what the real goal is.
Yeah.
like what the priority is. So thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody. Jason, I will see you on a Zoom call soon.
A lot of Zoom calls.
That's right. Good night, everybody.
See ya.